Hi, Mrs. Mack here. We are now going to work on 1.3.3 Sketch Constraints Part 4. In order to do this, of course, we're going to do our usual. Make sure our document settings are set to millimeters. Make sure our view cube is correct. We're going to go into our data panel. We're going to open up our Unit 1 folder. We want to go down to the 1.3.3 Constraints Part 3. You want to double click that. We're going to open up that design in order to do part 4. So once you have that open, you're going to go up to the top to File. You're going to go to Save As. Once that opens, you're going to change part 3 to part 4. So it now says 1.3.3 Constraints Part 4, saved in your IED Designs Unit 1, and click Save. You'll notice that the name updates up at the top, and you'll also see that it populates in your data panel. Now you can close the data panel. We're going to go down to our timeline. We're going to right-click on Sketch 1 and click Edit Sketch. Right. Notice all of our constraints and everything that we put on there previously are there. And that's what we're going to work with. So we're going to add some different geometric constraints on here, and I'm going to show you some different tools as well. We're going to talk about how to create construction lines. I'm going to show you how to create a line of symmetry, how to use the mirror tool, and some other things like that. So starting off, we need to create a construction line. Construction line is very similar to what we were doing when we were actually doing hand sketching. It's used for the same kind of purpose. It's to help line things up, but we're not using it in a drawing format this time. It's a sketch format. So we're going to go on up to our Create tab, and we want to click on Line. We need to go over here to the Sketch palette. If your Sketch palette is not open, all you have to do, let me move out of the way so you can see it. All you have to do is click on these arrows to open it up. The first option in the Sketch palette is line type. The first icon here says construction. That's what we want to click on. The second one says center line. You do not want that one. We want to use a construction line. So you're going to click construction. Now we're going to go down to line 1 on our x-axis, and we're going to drag our cursor along. You'll notice it's just showing x's and squares as we drag along. Once we find the midpoint, those x's and squares will change to an X and a triangle. So once you find that, you want to click. That will place that first point right there on our line 1. Then we're going to drag the cursor on up to line 6. Notice if we go straight up, it's not at the midpoint on line 6 because our line 1 and line 6 were not centered correctly. So we're going to drag along again on line 6 until we see that X and a triangle, the blue triangle. You will then click, and you will see now you have that red dotted construction line. We're going to click OK. Now at this time, before I do anything else, I'm going to go back over here to line type, and I'm going to click on that construction line again so that it's deselected, because otherwise everything you do from this point will be a construction line, and it's going to end up leading to some problems as you do some things. First thing we need to do is we need to line up. Now that we have our construction line, we're going to add a vertical constraint to it so that line 6 and line 1 are lined up properly. So I'm going to click on my construction line, and I'm going to go on up to my horizontal vertical and click on that. And then right click and OK. You'll notice now our midpoints are lined up. Now what I want to do is I want to center this whole design on my origin point. That's always best practice. Use that origin point as your center point. In order to do that, we need to use our coincident constraint. So we're going to go on up to our Constraints tab, and we're going to click on our coincident. If you don't remember which one is which, you can either look in your notebook, or if you click on the arrow here where next to constraints, it will give you the symbol and the name. So we're going to click on coincident. I'm going to go down to line 1. I'm going to find that point where my midpoint is. Click. And then I'm going to click at the center of my origin point. Notice everything's shifted over and everything is now centered. I'm going to click OK. Okay, now that we have that, oh, hang on, I lost my place here for just a moment. Let me find my place again. Okay, now that we have that, I want you to think about a couple of things real quickly. So I want you to go down to line 1. I want you to try and move line 1 around. You probably should not be able to. Okay, if you can move it, you need to go back and redo something. And also take a look. Notice lines 2 through 10 are blue still. Line 1 became black. Okay, that is because we have now fixed it to the origin so that we don't accidentally change anything with that. Okay, we're going to add some circles into our sketch. Before I add my circle, I want to add another construction line to help me line up my circle. So I'm going to go up to my line tool again. I'm going to click line tool, my line. I'm going to go over to line type and I'm going to click construction line. This time I want to go along line 2 until I find that midpoint. Again, it'll be a X and a triangle. I'll click and I'm going to drag this out about 3/4 of the way out. Not quite all the way to my center, but I want to go past this area here. So I want to drag it straight out a little bit. And then I'll do right click and OK. So now I have my construction line there. I want to turn off my construction line type. I'm going to go ahead and close my sketch palette now so it's out of the way. I'm going to go on up to create. I'm going to go to circle and I want center diameter circle. Somewhere in this area you're just going to click and you're going to drag out a circle and click and OK. So we have our circle. Don't worry about necessarily exactly where it is because we are going to kind of line it up. That's what we're going to use our constraints for. First thing we want to do is we want to line up the center of the circle with this point here. So we want it to be vertically lined up. So we're going to go up to our vertical constraint. We'll click on this point where 3 and 4 meet, and then we want to click on our circle. Now we have that vertical constraint there. I'll click OK. Next thing I want to do is I want to make this circle tangent to the midpoint of line 2. So that's why we put this construction line here. We're going to use that construction line to bring this down so it's tangent with that midpoint. So I'm going to go on up. I'm going to find my tangent tool. Again, if you don't know what the names are, you can click on the arrow and it'll bring it down. Okay, and if you don't remember what tangent means, once you hover over it, it'll tell you it constrains a curve and another object so that they touch at a single point but never cross each other. Okay, so that's what we're wanting to do with this circle. So I'm going to click tangent. I'm going to click on the circle and then I'm going to click on my construction line. Okay, and it brought everything down into place. I'm going to click OK. So now we're vertically aligned here and we're tangent to the midpoint. Now I want to make another circle over here on this side. I want it to be identical. So in order to make it identical, I'm going to do something easy rather than having to put another construction line here and line everything up. I'm going to use what's called the mirror tool. Okay, so I'm going to go on up here to my create tab. This icon that has 2 triangles next to each other, that's the mirror tool. Or you can click on create and then find mirror down here. Either way works. Once we click that, we'll have a text box open up. So the object that we want to mirror is the circle. So I'm going to click on the circle. The mirror line that we want is this middle construction line, our midpoint construction line. Click on that and then click OK, and it mirrors it over. It brings it on over for us. Okay. Now, just make sure. Okay. Now we are going to, that's it for part 4. Sorry, I'm getting my steps confused. So that is going to be it for part 4 at this point. So at this point, you can go ahead and, oh, I want to do one thing, sorry. Let's see. Yep, okay. Well, you can go ahead and upload this into Canvas for your part 4.